Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Streggy, and tonight I have another review for you of a 1922 silent film classic that I think holds up very well. That was directed by F.W. Murnau, called Nosferatu, otherwise known as Nosferatu eine Symphonies des Grauens. Being as this was my first review that I did written, I figured I'd go on about it on our YouTube page, and I have to begin with this German expressionist film penned by screenwriter Henrik Galeen, who also scripted The Golem from 1920. To be honest, the origins of the story belong credited to an Irish traveling writer by the name of Emily Gerard, who penned The Land Beyond the Forest, Facts and Fancies from Transylvania in 1890. Also, Transylvania Superstitions in 1885. It seems she mistakenly translated Nosferatu into the undead one, which, in fact, among many widespread scholars, the term comes from nos ophoros, from Greek mythology, bringer of disease or carrier of the plague. Now that we know this, we now know where novelist Bram Stoker got his term Nosferatu for his vampire Count Dracula, written in 1897, published in 1908. Founded in 1921 by Enrique Dijkman and Elvin Grau, Prana Film, named for the Buddhist concept of prana, put Henrik Galeen to scripting the film adaptation Nosferatu with director Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau. Murnau, openly gay at the time, as I did not know this before my research into his life, was in the dark, like Galeen, about the fact that the film was unauthorized due to the copyright issue. After Galeen realized that he left the project, Murnau had to rewrite 12 pages due to missing ink in the last scene, which I found interesting as well. One thing I found interesting was setup producer Elvin Grau's father. In the winter of 1916, while serving in the German army in World War I, a Serbian farmer referred to his father as being a vampire of the undead. Already creepy. Also, Grau's inspiration into producing Nosferatu. Instead of arriving in the form of a wolf and running around as a bloodsucker terrorizing the city in Stoker's Dracula, Count Graf Orlok, played by actor Max Schreck, which, believe it or not, his name in German at least the last name of Schreck means fear, which I think the cool reference to maximum fear is actually kind of cool. So he arrived in the form of the plague with rats and people with bite marks like a vampire. Instead of Van Helsing, Arthur and Quincy, along with 3 vampire brides, it was Orloff, Hutter, Ellen Harding, Professor Severs, Knock, Professor Bulwer, Ruth, even Max Schreck's wife, Fanny Schreck, goes uncredited as a nurse. This was how Galeen changed things, less for artistic reasons as for pragmatic reasons. An abandoned salt house. The old Salzsprecher made up Count Orloff's acquired house in Weisburg. Shots from St. Mary's Church in a tower overlooking the marketplace in Weismar, along with footage of the harbor and a churchyard, made up the rest of the scenes in Weisburg. The most difficult scenes were in the Vetrana Valley, along the High Tatras, along the Va River near the city of Dolny. Kubin, where they picked up the head coachman as an extra, Joseph Sereni. In this group of mountains, Murnau had to have cameras pulled up and down on pulleys over 5,000 feet of terrain. Other shots were taken from Jaffa Studios in Berlin. Not one, but two castles were filmed for Orlok's original home in Transylvania, Orava Castle and Starhrad Castle. Orava was used as his Transylvania home, mostly, and Starhrad was used in the last scene of the film when Ellen sacrificed herself to the vampire and then Orlok was destroyed by sunlight. As to the actor Max Schreck, he was reported to have lived in a quote-unquote a remote and incorporeal world, quote, and often spent time roaming the forest. Often considered a loner, he was also known for his great sense of humor and skill playing grotesque characters. Prana Film never made another production due to Nosferatu being unauthorized by Bram Stoker's widow, receiving an anonymous letter as to the premiere of the film's presentation from Berlin. The document, including the program of an elegant cinematic event held in 1922, complete with full orchestral accompaniment that had taken place in the Marble Garden at Berlin Zoological Garden. The film was described as in the handbill as freely adapted from Bram Stoker's Dracula. Florence Balcom Stoker was furious, probably directly from that statement. Her response was prompt and uncompromising, as she was Bram Stoker's literary executor. She went to Britain's Society of Authors and sued for copyright infringement, ordering all copies to be destroyed and all financial success to be reverted to her. This took a couple of years because Prana Films filed for bankruptcy to avoid payment to the widow, but in 1924, she won and all copies were supposedly destroyed. Later in 1929, it resurfaced in New York and Detroit, but there was a ban on playing Nosferatu anywhere until Francis Balcom Stoker's death in 1937. As to the preview in the handbill sent anonymously, the elegant event was held on March 4th, 1922. Everyone who was to attend was to appear in Bedemia costume. A period, basically, Bedemia was a period of time from between 1815 to 1848, and it began with the time of the Congress of Vienna at the end of the Napoleonic Wars, and ended with the onset of the European revolutions in 1848. We are also led to believe that this was quite a large event, where a lot of film critics and people in the know of film were to attend. And now to my personal perspective. I believe this film had a place, even though it was almost destroyed. Prana Films should have gone about the legal way and gotten at least Stoker's permission. Because of the times and financial situations, I'm sure that played into it. But I believe for its time, it was the best they could do with what they had to play with, as it was also a low-budget film as well. I thought it was interesting that Alban Grau was a practicer of the occult and had planned on making more supernatural films of that nature, but never came to light because of that copyright issue. It is haunting and surreal until the very end, and maybe a silent film is not up your alley. But as to the survival of a film, if one wants to make sure it does, this film is a testament that Nosferatu will live on. It is one of my personal favorites of silent films, and I think if you enjoy films of this nature, definitely check this film out if you have not. I think it's sad when I try to relay to some of the young people uh, of this day to try to watch a black and white film, and they don't want to because it's old. I want to remember it because it was a film of its time. But I enjoyed describing this film to you. I enjoy watching films, old and new, and hopefully you've enjoyed my description of this film. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it's high up on my list to watch every single time that I can think of. I go back and revisit it, and it just holds some nostalgia. It creeps me out just a little bit, and I think you just need to enjoy it for what it is. In any case, like and subscribe to my page if you have not. Um, Definitely check it out. It is on Kino, as you can see. This is a very cool 2-disc copy. I mean, look at that silhouette. That's awesome. I mean, wow. Just a film to go back and watch again and again and enjoy for um, history's sake, to be honest. So, in any case, uh, thanks for listening, and have a nice day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And thanks for appreciating the art.